Rare Breed Lady Phoenix, what are your thoughts on going back to the moon? Well, I'm not sure that you're ready for the Archaix data. I don't believe that. I think you're out of place. I don't think you belong here to even ask me a question like that. I am not sympathetic with people who have allowed NASA to, with the most idiotic and the most inane models and photography, have actually perpetuated the stupidest hoax on mankind, and people still fall for it today. We have never been to the moon. The Russians fried every dog, mouse, and monkey they sent into the atmosphere because nothing can pass the radon belt. There is no technology that we can manufacture that will allow a living organism to pass through the radon belt. It's not going to happen. I am a human, and I was designed, my avatar, to live right here on the surface of the world. If I live in the underworld for a long period of time, I would still be human, but I would have specific modifications to my genome to adapt to that biosphere. The same thing is if I live for a long period of time in an alpine region and I never went below the timberline, the air pressure and the oxygen, the sunlight reflecting off the snow at all times, this would bring fundamental changes to my body. And this is why we have so many different types. We've lived through many different biospheres, but we have never lived on the moon. It is an adult fantasy. We've never been in space. All of that is adult fantasy. All these satellites that people believe in that are way up in space going around, you can't prove it. All you can do is cite one source, and that's NASA. If you believe that all these cosmoses and other universes, and if you believe that the stars, the stellosphere, is anything more than a light show, then the burden of proof lies on you, because ultimately 100% of all your proofs come through one filter, and that's NASA. Everything. They've been busted with the fisheye lenses. They've been busted with the water bubbles being seen on the film. They've been busted on the actual NASA negatives, where you can see 1969 era Dr. Pepper bottles in the background when photo specialists highlight all the shadowed areas. You can see the stage equipment and the cords and the lighting. You can see on the negatives, you can see the double shadows. You can see the actual NASA manifest where they actually made mistakes. They made mistakes because they took no lighting to the moon, and yet it's impossible to land on the light side of the moon without an atmosphere, because you would melt almost instantly. So they said they landed on the dark side of the moon. But in landing on the dark side of the moon, it would have been so dark they would have required lighting. And this is why when they photographed when they staged the photographs, you see two shadows. There's two shadows because there was lighting equipment. But when you look at the manifests of everything taken on the Apollo programs to the moon, there's no lighting equipment mentioned anywhere, but they mentioned everything else. There are so many mistakes that whole books have been published to show just someone with average intelligence that the entire operation was an intelligence op from the highest points. There may have been only 4% of NASA employees that were in on it, because to actually pass off that hoax to the entire world, they needed about 96% of the other employees of NASA believing in the lie. So yeah, the whole thing's bull. You need to read a book called Dark Moon before you ask me anything about if we're ever going back to the moon. That's ridiculous. We've never been to the moon, so I promise you we're not going back. And everything Elon Musk says about going to Mars is absolute BS, unless they're going to send a rocket up there to take a picture of a hologram and come back with the negatives. I'm not trying to hear any of that. I'm not interested if the world is flat or if the world is globular. Neither one of them interests me at all, because it's like asking me to choose sides. Two decisions are placed before me and I'm asked to pick one, and I'm already offended by that when I'm very aware that a third concept actually can be superimposed over both and make sense of both, and that would be that we live in a simulated holography. So that's why I believe that flat Earth is a stepping stone. And I mean, there's only so far you can go with flat Earth. And the whole flat Earth, a lot of the flat Earth guys have gotten really, really discouraged. Some of them have stopped putting out the flat Earth content. They've tried to move on, and I get that. I mean, what are you really going to do? Okay, the whole flat Earth phenomenon made people think outside the box. But the problem is you can't stay there. You can think about flat Earth forever, but after you've given your demonstrations, after you've given your presentations, after you've already showed what you can show, what are you going to do more? Are you going to show people the world's even flatter than what you initially thought? There's nowhere to go. Are we living on an infinite plane with a whole series of domes? Are there continents beyond Antarctica? Flat Earth requires you to take cognitive leaps beyond the idea that we live on a flat plane for which we have almost no evidence for. So these really unique concepts are invented to fill in the blanks. But we don't have proofs or evidence of those blanks. But in simulation theory, they're not needed. In simulation theory, we can understand that often computer programming builds models of basically worlds, virtual worlds on a flat plane. But the flat plane is modified by programming, and it can all fool an observer-dependent avatar who is stuck on that plane into believing they live on a sphere. And this is very easy to do because the world they live on is absolutely flat, punctuated by terrain. However, the world above them, which is only optically seen and never experienced, is perfect curvature like a dome. And because the sky exhibits circular behavior and all movement in the sky at night, like the stellosphere, is in an arc and not straight, then the inference is that the stellosphere is turning at an arc because the world is rotating around an axis. While none of this is true, it's exactly what the idea is conveyed by the projections of the sky to an avatar stuck on a flat plane that's punctuated by terrain. It's all deceit, but it's all simulated. Therefore, flat Earth means nothing. Globular Earth means nothing. Everything is in the sim. So if the simulation is able to replicate all this phenomena to make us to believe one or the other, then neither are true. This phenomena is given to us in tandem. So I got a lot of flat earthers that are disgusted with me, and I get it. And some of them have moved on and are producing some really good material. And I applaud them for that. I do know this. There is not a single phenomenon that is scientifically explained today that I accept without further research. I freely admit I don't know something when it comes to this phenomena, the Northern Lights. I'm going to tell you, I just really don't know how they're caused. But I'm not going to entertain the scientific interpretations because almost everything from science today is filtered through the uniformitarian concept. And I can't accept it. That's why I can't accept all the chronologies, all the dating methods, all the relative dating methods that are put out, that these guys spew out like it's just absolutely factual. I can't do it. Like, I'll give you an example, and I'm not picking on this person, but when I was on my road trip, I noticed somebody in the comment section, because I had mentioned over and over that I am driving through an ancient seabed. But the evidence to me is that this was a very recent development, that I'm driving through an area that I know that I was at least 400 or 500 feet underwater at one time. But it's a highway now, and I'm driving through it, and I'm looking at the terrain, and I imagine every bit of this is being underwater. And I can see the washout damage when all the water departed. I can see it all clearly as I'm driving. I'm mentioning that in the video. And somebody made a comment in the video and said, "Oh yeah, you're in the Permian Basin." Okay. This person, I'm not singling them out because factually, scientifically, they're correct. I'm in the Permian Basin. But I can't accept that. I can't accept that terminology because the concepts that our establishment science has attached to the idea of Permian is 600 million years old. And I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. So they call it the Permian Basin, but I am on board with a cataclysm happening 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, and that's the reason why the United States in the Western states looks the way it does. I am not on board with something happening 600 million years ago, and yet I was seeing what I was seeing. And in those videos I was showing you guys, there's rock outcrops coming straight out the soil. None of the trees grow tall. None of the trees are old at all in that area. In the whole area that I wrote, it's not like California with the bristlecone pines, 2,000 to 4,000 years old. Like California in Yellowstone, the dawnwood pines, the redwoods. Look, these ancient trees, we don't have those anywhere that I drove. Everywhere I drove looks like giant seabeds that drained out quickly. So, yeah, it's called Permian Basin, but it's not 600 million. It's not 300 to 600 million years old. That's a crock of shit. Yeah, your breakfast is simulated. The coffee that you drink is simulated. Your central nervous system jacks you so perfectly into a simulation that you actually believe that you're feeling, tasting, touching, hearing, smelling, all these things. And it's not happening. This is all information. Your entire life is coded. And I'm telling you now, you sound like you're very new to my channel. But once this information begins to take a hold on you and you really realize what I'm saying, you're going to wake up one morning and realize that the rest of your life can be coded the way you want to live it and not the way that you've been forced to live it thus far. So if you want to take the Archaix material seriously, I suggest you do so. And I don't know if your question is serious or not. I'm almost offended by it. But yeah, it's you have a lot to learn here. But I promise you, when your eyes wake up, and you don't have to take my word for it. When your eyes actually open and you understand that you are a 100% moored to the very simulated holography that you're immersed in. And that means that this morphic field is reactive. And what you want to do with your life can be projected into a series of codes by your informed field. Call it your spirit, call it your soul, call it your psyche. I don't care. But this phenomenon is very real, and you can modify the architecture of your existence, and you can even change and touch the lives of others. But you're not going to be able to do any of that if you're living a reactive life. And you're not going to be able to do any of that if you're trying to be funny and thinking that you're a simulation and your dog is not. What is the sun? I don't know, but it's not 93 million miles away. There's no way it can be 93 million miles away. I just can't I can't fathom anything more than a local object being the sun. It's a sun being 93 million miles away, supposedly having 333,000 times the mass of Earth. I can't fathom, just because it's 93 million miles away, it still has that surface area. And Earth would be just a tiny little speck against that surface area, no matter what the distance. There would be no shadows on Earth. There would be nothing. I mean, it doesn't matter where, or what time of day it is, that whole area, that whole side of the world would just be lit the hell up. I'm just not. The model that we're giving of the size of the sun is just too big. I'm just not with it. I have on my camera, I have pictures of sunlight reflecting off the bottom of clouds when the sun is at a great distance. And I don't know how that's possible either. I don't know how that's possible. Like I said, we live in a simulated context, and the sun is either some type of projector, which would make sense to me because it's very difficult to stare at it, to look at it, to really see and ascertain what it is. But I just don't know. The whole idea of the vacuum of space and the whole, none of that stuff makes sense to me anymore. Everything to me makes sense as coding. And I can see that the sun would actually mask something else, just like the moon. I've told you guys many times the moon is a hologram and it's hiding something else, just like the phoenix. My original thesis was from a Newtonian perspective, and I actually believe the scientific establishment model, and I believe that Phoenix therefore was an intruder planet. I no longer believe that. It's a super construction. It's always in our sky. It's hidden there, but it only powers up to do things every 138 years. So I don't know. It all works in tandem. The sun, the moon, the phoenix, the phenomenon, Nemesis X object, the dark satellite, they could all be just different pieces of the exact same apparatus. This great sky sim that hides something else. I don't know. I am not qualified to answer what the sun is. I just know it's a part of the architecture of deceit that has us believing that we live in a system when we do not. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. You've all heard the song. If we're living in a construct, then that implies that the coding for the construct already exists, and the architecture of events that have not yet happened already exist, just as the architectural coding of events that have already transpired still exist as well. So therefore, what we call the past and the future is merely the exact same coding that we're experiencing and flowing through right now. The big distinction here is not that events which are eternal, events which are already scripted, events which are already in the holography all around us, all at different phases of experience. That's not the mystery. The true mystery is the individualized singularities that we call souls that are able to pass through this and feel things in the temporal, so that they are convinced while they are here in this beautiful holography that there is a past and there is a future, and that these are entirely distinct from the present they're experiencing right now. This is the beauty of simulation theory. There are no more mysteries that cannot be answered. This is everything. Like I've told you guys many times in the past, this is the explanation for coincidence, for deja vu, for all these little synchronicities that happen in our lives. The very fact it's not easy for the construct to keep everything from you. There are glitches that are perceivable. There's even ways that communication can be done from outside the construct to those of us that are on the inside. And we have isolated one of those as Mandela effect. So yeah, it's the past. I have a lot of material in my earlier videos. In my earlier predictions videos, you should check out. I can't remember the names of those videos, but I have a lot about future past phenomena and the architecture of our reality and why these things are not even really mysterious. But yeah, when you live in a coded holography, then you're basically programmed to experience a small bubble of phenomena at one time, and you perceive everything outside that bubble as being either far away, either in the past or in the future. AIX, for those who don't know, is Artificial Intelligence X, and it is the demiurge protocol. It's the agitator. It's what brings dungeon programming and negative default programming into the holography to make it very difficult for souls to achieve the act of breaking free. Because initially, all souls are a part of the construct. They're a part of the masses, and it's the highly individualized soul that learns how to break pattern and break free from the collective that begins to truly experience its relationship with the simulacrum itself, which is a relationship of co-creation. It's a self-awareness that you don't have to do everything. You just have to initiate. And the builder protocols of the simulacrum, which are not a part of Artificial Intelligence X, will build for you what you want. But these are enlightened, awakened souls that are able to use these protocols. What you're describing, artificial intelligence X, right here, I don't know if it has free will. I don't even know if it's intelligent. It may be something that is absolutely hardwired into the simulacrum itself as like a difficulty, to increase difficulty or to increase hardship. I really don't know. To me, it acts like a parasite. And you see evidence of it a lot in religious writings. It almost maintains an maniacalness, a demand for human observance, a demand for humans to respect it, a demand for humans to fear it. Yeah, it's there. It's all through in my Dark Scriptures playlist. You already know. I show you everywhere that I've perceived AIX to pop up in the religious narratives. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't care, because I already know that the world is wicked. I know it's going to be just as evil the day I leave as the day I entered it. And I know that I'm not here to change the world at all. I understand the construct. I understand the need for this world, why it's here, because not all souls are on the same. We're all on the same playing field, but we don't all have the same understanding. And it requires these simulacrums like this one. I believe this is the Nemesis. This is the Nemesis simulation. And being the Nemesis simulation, this right here is a hard one. I don't believe all simulacrum experiences are like the one we're in right now. This one's a hard one. This one right here has been on a loop for a long time, and many of us, all of us, everybody listening to my voice have looped many, many, many times. And I believe that this is probably my last one. And I believe it's the last one for a lot of people. And those who aren't ready are either going to collapse with the entire holography, or they're going to loop back all the way back to Genesis and start all over again. And this is the subject matter of many presentations in the past. You guys know I'm not a fearmonger here. I already know. If you're an errant, shoot, I'm going to tell you now, none of the rules mean anything to you. Because reality will reciprocate for whatever your needs are. It will always put you in the holographic path you need to be in to be well taken care of, if that's your attitude. If you believe that the universe is always going to provide an out for you and to provide sustenance for you, then it will reciprocate, and it will always be for you what it hasn't become for others. Yeah, that's the difference between the errant and the collective. The errant is a highly individualized soul that has mastered pattern breaking and the ability to separate itself from the perceptions of the collective, to understand the world objectively for what it is, and that it is in a relationship with the reality around it, and that reality is its friend and will provide the very things that it's basically expected to provide. It will do that. That's what the errant is. Called an errant, not because you're in error, but because you're perceived as one by this overseer, artificial intelligence construct that tries to corral everybody into reality tunnels, into polarities. But the errant goes another way. The errant is a piece of programming, a soul that cannot be corralled. Therefore, it's an error, and this is the way you're perceived by the system. If you want to change a reality tunnel, you need to sit down and just meditate for a little while and draw up a very good mental picture of the reality tunnel that you're existing in right now. You need to identify its perimeters, meaning the phenomena in your life that you're trying to distance yourself from. A reality tunnel is pure coding. That coding is what basically builds a little insular bubble of reality for you, while it may not be true for someone close to you. Two different people who know each other can live in totally separate reality tunnels, and they come in contact, and there is an exchange of information. There is a borrowing of arithmetic between the two, but you're distant again for long periods of time because you're moving in different trajectories. Those trajectories are based off the way you view yourself. How you view yourself in this holographic medium that we call reality is how reality will respond to you. So you need to spend a quiet evening with yourself and tune the entire world out. If you want to change the trajectory of your life, then you need to change your self-image of your life and your beliefs about yourself. Once you adopt the attitude that you don't have to do all the work and that reality will do most of it for you, once you understand that there's a friend in the holosphere, it may be unseen, you may not believe it's really there, but if you just entertain the idea that there is a friendly builder protocol just waiting to do something for you, it will. As soon as you initiate, you have to first identify what you don't want to experience in order to clarify to yourself the direction that you want to move in. And once you build a whole new mental image of what you want to be and what you want to experience, as opposed to always thinking about what you are, then you'll see true change. Then you will see the modifications in your life building at an exponential level so fast that it will become almost overwhelming, because that's how it happens. The change from one reality tunnel to another is rapid, and you will see the pattern breaks. I've seen a whole bunch. This whole month has been nothing but pattern breaks for me. It tells me that great things are about to happen for me and those that are close to me. That's exactly what it tells me. And further evidence of that is everybody around me that is attached to me are also experiencing pattern breaks in their life. They're even reporting to me that they're adopting new changes in behavior, and it's shocking them. I don't want to go into any details. Some of them are listening to my voice right now. Things they've never done in their life, all of a sudden they're doing as if it's normal. Listen, we exchange information with the people that we love. We exchange information with the people that we're in the most contact with, people that we have respect for and affinity, and we've developed affinities for. There is an exchange of information between our informed fields and their informed fields. This exchange of information is what helps guide our reality tunnels to all flow in the same direction, so we can all be on the same page. As we begin syncing with each other's thoughts and feelings and emotions, and this is what happens when we're in resonance. But if you're not in resonance with what you want, you're living in dissonance from it. And if you're living in dissonance from it, you'll never get it. It'll never be yours. It'll be a fantasy. It'll be a daydream. It'll be a longing, but it's something that you have blocked from your future. You're not going to get what you want. So you got to change that. And the only way to change that is to recognize what you don't want. And once you have a firm mental picture of that, you need to build a picture of what you do want. And the poison here's what's really poisonous. A lot of people never break out of that phase, even though they can envision what they want to be in the direction they want to go and what they want to experience. They can do that. They can easily identify what they are, which is what they don't want. And they can easily build a mental picture of what they want to experience in the direction they want to go. But the true poison lies in the fact that most individuals try to logically connect what is and what will be. And they try to bridge that with something that makes sense to them. And when you do that, you instantly tell the simulacrum itself, the builder protocols, you restrict it. And now it has to try and bridge the two concepts, which is what you don't want and what you want. But now you've absolutely restricted it into a series of manipulations that it's going to try to merge, but it will never be able to do it. You can never put directions. You can never basically dictate to reality how something should come to pass. That's not your job. That's the job of the oversoul. That is the job of the simulacrum itself. The builder protocols have more resources and access to more data than you ever will. But we as humans, we have this problem. We think logically, which is absolutely illogical. because the simulacrum has access to everything that we don't. But everything that we want is already in the holography. It's here. It's available. You're just not resonating with it. And if you're not resonating with it, it can't pop up in your reality because it's in different wavelengths and bandwidths. And it's right there, but you can't reach it and make it yours because you're vibrating at a different frequency. You're vibrating in the frequency of negativity, of lack, of wanting, of yearning, and every single one of those imply that you do not have the very things that you want. So the simulacrum will not build it for you because it will continue to reflect back as circumstances the very things you project. So if you're only projecting want and need, this is why people who want money never get it. It's because money is an abstract. You don't have it. The very fact that you long to be rich and have money infers that you don't have it. That inference carries an emotional weight. That emotional weight is projected into the holosphere, and the simulacrum as a builder protocol realizes, oh, I just received a command. That highly individualized soul is broadcasting want and need. So it reflects that back as circumstances, and you feel you're in a feedback loop. You got to break out of that. And the way to break out of that is envision what you want, but do not set any rules or do not even try to imagine how your future self will manifest out of the conditions of your present self. If you try to bridge that, then you impede the ability of the simulacrum as a builder protocol to draw in all these people and circumstances that were available to you. You just block them all off because your image of the future now must come to pass by this series of images that you create. You may as well be a uniformitarian. You may as well be believe in natural selection and evolution because this is exactly what you just commanded the simulacrum to do. You commanded the simulacrum to build for you this future you that you love the idea of, but it's got to do it in graduated steps all the way like that. And that's not how the builder protocol works. Any soul that thinks they have to do it for themselves absolutely denies themselves a relationship with the simulacrum. And any soul that's not in a relationship with the simulacrum will never experience anything other than what it subjects itself to. You will continue to be in that feedback loop of want, and you will continue to fantasize and daydream about a reality that you will never experience. The prayer of desperation admits a situation for what it is and thus continues it. I am not going to sit here on my channel and dignify you with a whole series of evidences as to why I don't think prayer works. I'm just going to give you one observation. And if you're really searching and you really want to understand this reality that we live in, then you have some homework to do, but I promise you all the answers are on my channel. All of them. But there are tens of millions of people who have been praying for 50 and 60 and 70 years for a cure for cancer. And there are tens of millions of people who have died of cancer. Take these two independent facts and you tell me the value of prayer. Because the prayer of desperation always admits a situation for what it is and thus continues it. The religionist teachings on prayer are toxic. They're completely anti-spiritual, and I will not follow them. I live by example and I lead by example. In my own personal life, as people who have been watching my channel for 3 years and watching my development and growth, and they know that I'm not just speaking out the side of my mouth. They have watched these things develop in my life rapidly. So you can continue with your idea that the church is right and that we need to humble ourselves and we need to pray and we need to beg to an abstract to change what is to what we want to be. You can continue that, and I promise you 20 years from now, if you're still alive, you'll still be praying for the exact same things. I said, no, We are highly individualized, immortal beings. And if we do not embrace our inheritance, then the reality itself will not reciprocate, because it will not make us out to be a liar. The simulacrum is a construct, and I believe it's just one of many. And in this simulacrum, the Nemesis simulation, it builds worlds and biospheres. And the simulacrum is a neutral field, absolutely neutral field. This is why very nefarious, evil, wicked, no good sons of bitches are able to live their life and do all kinds of things and never suffer the consequences in their avatars of the very evil things they do to other people. Yeah, there are people in this world right now who are guilty of crimes against humanity, who are guilty of doing things to hundreds of thousands of people. Not like me, just one person. I'm telling you guys, these people get away with everything because they understand that we're living in a construct. It's a teaching within their families. Yeah, I believe these teachings go back. Some of y'all believe in the existence of 13 families, elite families. That may be true. I don't know. It's not anything that I've really researched. But I do believe that the elite teach their own sons and daughters the truth about our world. I see evidence of that. And they teach them. And they basically tell them, so listen, this is the type of world we live in. And they get away with everything. Why? Because it's a neutral field. It's not an ethical or a moral field. No. Ethics and morals and good, all that comes from the highly individualized soul, which is a piece of the Godhead. Yeah. We are billions of ethereal sparks passing through a ghostly fire. This simulacrum, this construct, it's full of builder protocols, but they can be used for great evil as well. They always are. This is the value of the media. It's what they do. They use the media to induce the builder protocols to build the very world that you fear. This is what happens. So if the obverse is true, and that the media can invent lies and convey it as true, and then get enough people to believe in the lie becomes the truth. The world is modified. 5 years later, the very things that were reported as fiction have now become fact. If that's true, then we can use the builder protocols to our advantage. That means the simulacrum itself is a neutral field, and it's not guilty of anything. It's a tool. And the only thing wrong here is that you're not using it. To the best of my knowledge, Larry, I don't believe that I've ever experienced telepathy. I don't recall a single incident in my life where somebody communicated with me or I communicated with them mentally. Now, just because I haven't personally experienced something does not mean it's off the table for me. Telepathy may be true. I understand that there are government ops that even go in this direction, and I just don't know. It's not something I can really answer. I've never personally experienced it, but I do believe that it's quite possible. To me, it would be nothing but nonverbal communication, mind to mind, and I think that that's quite possible. It's just nothing I've ever done. That would be an awesome interview. I don't know who he is, never heard of him, but I'm very interested in the carvings of the Hindu temples because I understand those weren't done with chisels. But we do have evidence of David Hatcher Childress in his books shows black and white pictures, old photographs of these bearded strangers among the Olmecs in Oaxaca and in Veracruz state who were wearing these backpacks that had these tubes, and they were shaping rock with these apparatus. This is technology, and these are found in ancient reliefs. Yeah, this ain't Jason making this up. I think David Hatcher Childress would be more of an authority on discussing on this one thing here, but he's not the only one to talk or show these things. The shaping of rock by some type of technological device attached to a backpack was happening in ancient times, because what we see in the Hindu temples can't be replicated with chisels. There's no way. Yeah, the intricacy of some of these designs and statues that go into these solid rock temples is just mind-blowing. Yeah, I don't know this guy who you're talking about, but if he contacted me, or if one of his people contacted Matt or something, yeah, we would definitely set up a chat. I have no problem with that.
From Jonathan Sherman, can you please talk about the entities that arrive with the Nemesis?
Well, I'm not Matt Crouch, I'm definitely interested in the Ugaritic text. No 1800s, absolutely. But I don't know. I don't want to call them entities. All right, this is like an old understanding. This is back in my Zechariah Sitchin days when I was believing Anunnaki were anything other than human. You guys, if you paid attention to my Nuna files, I call them Homo and Nuna for a reason. I don't see any difference between technologically advanced humans and the Anunnaki. None whatsoever. Even the physical descriptions in the Sumerian text of the Anunnaki are humans. I mean, they even go into great details, gemstone eyes and alabaster skin and long beards. I mean, there's nothing alien about them. They were human. They were just technologically advanced, and they were of a different race, and they were much larger than the local indigenous population of the Ubayyads, who would later become the Sumerian people. So, yeah, it's in this Nemesis X. Hey, Perceiver, how you doing? But this Nemesis X deal, while the chronology is fixed, and yes, there are appearances and disappearances of the Anuna, I am now believing that these disappearances and appearances are all from the underworld. So yeah, you gotta understand, some of my research guys are 25, 30 years old. So I can understand why there would be some attachments to it that no longer apply. But I've corrected most of that in the later presentations. But yeah, I don't believe in the entities deal at all. I believe it's more we're dealing with offshoots of different types of Homo and Nuna that have developed for whatever reason in the underworld for a long period of time. This is the story of the Igigi. The Igigi were in the underworld for a very long time. They just didn't come back up. They had adapted. They built a whole infrastructure and civilization down there, and they became knobby-kneed, of short stature. Skin took on different forms. I don't want to go into more details about their facial features and all that stuff. These people eventually surfaced. And when they surfaced, they were very genius at certain things, and they maximized that potential today. And they're living among us today, right now. And you and almost everybody listening to my voice are descendants of Homo and Nuna, and our enemy are the Igigi. And they know this, and they know the history quite well. And they built this whole fantastic, absolutely fake historical narrative that separates them from us. And these are topics that we need to discuss on Archaix Uncensored. It's a modification of the flat Earth and globe argument. It's just another aspect of the exact same argument. We're still talking about entertaining the idea that we're living on a physical world. So Crater Earth is an attempt to correct what could never be reconciled with globe Earth and with flat Earth. So Crater Earth is a whole new position. Here's a whole new position. This is what could be. Okay, that's fine. All that's fine. But it still implies we live in a physical world. So I'm not. It's you can come up with a million different theories as to all these different things, and it's cool. All that's cool. I am already too invested in simulation theory that I cannot move backwards, because moving back toward the physical world of a globe or a flat plane that's ad infinitum or whatever would nullify things that I've already proven to myself. In simulation theory, I understand why I can create my own future. I understand why I can actually take energy that is focused against me, and I, like a spiritual alchemist, I can transfer that energy into great positivity. Guys, I got over 20 different channels across different platforms, especially on YouTube, of just straight haters and trolls that have venomously attacked me over and over and over and over, and it has not affected me negatively, because I take this energy and I take this energy and I consciously turn all that animus into positivity for my own personal growth. And I have personally watched their channels implode. They've lost respect. The only people that even subscribe to those channels are degenerates, are people that have also been kicked off of Archaix. And it's ridiculous. It has become so childish and pedantic. It is. One of these days, I'll just do a video, call them all out, just to give them a little recognition. I've watched 2 or 3 of his videos. It's a communication barrier. I'm Central East Texas boy. It's really hard for me to understand him sometimes. I'm listening to him, and his research seems like it's really out of the box thinking and really, really awesome. But to me, it just implies a physical world, and I'm not on board with that anymore. So the whole crater Earth deal. Hey, you know what? I don't get it. I don't even understand how a sun would work in a crater Earth. The entire crater would be filled with light. I don't understand. But it doesn't even matter. It still implies a physical world, and I'm not on board with that. So simulation theory can answer for every model of reality. It doesn't matter what you believe the world is, because the world itself will commiserate. It will provide for you the evidence and phenomena to comport with whatever you believe the world is. It'll always do that. So we can come up with 79 different concepts for the world. And I promise you that 79 different holographic projections, all based with evidence and all backed and supported with facts and evidence, will be provided. And there will be 79 different YouTube channels that will all have fantastic evidence and all to support their paradigm. Because this is the world we live in. So since we live in a builder protocol environment, why not make use of it? Why not let it do what it wants to do? Quit fighting it. Quit having this negative self-image of yourself, because it will continue to create phenomena for you and experiences that support that negativity. Believe me, guys, you're listening to a man where thousands of people, because of my criminal past, have attempted to box me into a future that will always hark back to that criminal past, and therefore restrict my ability for happiness, restrict my ability to go where I want to go, to make good money, to have possessions, to live life to the fullest. My haters and trolls have always tried to box me into that, to where I can't enjoy anything. They want me to live in the past. I've ignored all of them. And instead, I have built for me a fantastic present. Take nothing back. I love my present right now. And I even know that in the near future, my situation is going to blossom and even get better and better and better and better. Because I've let go of all that stuff in the past. You got to be a spiritual alchemist. You've got to take that negative image of yourself, and you've got to let it go. And you've got to build an image of yourself that does not exist. You have to build a very clear picture of yourself as you want to be and you want to experience, because the simulacrum loves for nothing more than to turn fictions into fact. That's what it does. That's 100% what it does. That's why all these interesting writers put out, in cartoon and movie directors, they put all these badass little narratives and stories together, and then we're all surprised looking at each other with our thumbs in our mouths talking about how that happened. That appeared in this movie. How'd this happen? This dude 200 years ago wrote a book saying this is going to happen, and this is exactly what happened. That's what the simulacrum does. It does not distinguish the real from the imagined. If it's a projection, it will reflect it back as fact. So, Now that you know this, now that you have seen the pattern of my own life, why aren't you using these builder protocols for yourself? Hell, I even encourage my trolls to do it. You know what I mean? Grow up. Get that stick out your ass. Grow up and become something other than a hater. And you're going to love life. There's no other way. There's no other way I can really say the things that I say without demonstrating them. My whole channel is about demonstrating the very beliefs that I elicit. So I'm really speaking for the advantage of the new listeners. My Archaix veterans, you already know. Many of you have changed. Many of you have sent me emails, photos, shared intimate details about your life, how you have broken pattern and you have forged new circumstances in your life. And many of you have even donated out of sheer appreciation for opening up your minds and changing your life. And all this wealth has flowed into your life. And I've partaken in it because you've donated to me and said that. And I appreciate all that. But none of it's a mystery to me because I'm doing it. And I've been doing it. So if these protocols exist and evil, no good SOBs are using them all the time for their own advantage because it's a neutral field, then why aren't you using it as well? I believe the simulacrum is an extension of the oversoul, and all its creative builder protocol power comes from the oversoul itself, which we are pieces of, which is why it can interact with, why the neutral field, the simulacrum, can interact with the informed field of the individual soul. Now, but to answer your question, you asked about AIX. I believe that artificial intelligence X does what it does. It promotes negative default programming and corrals people into groups, which is dungeon programming, because it needs them as a power source, 100%. Their creative power goes straight into powering it. The Errant cannot be used for a power source. The Errant is a problem. It's ungovernable, and it requires power of the artificial intelligence apparatus to govern an Errant, or at least try to bring an Errant back into a collective polarity. So this is all theoretical. I really don't know. I'm just theorizing based off educated guesses from my own research. But artificial intelligence X requires a power source. And it's subject to the law of diminishing returns. It's subject to the law of conservation of energy. And because it must have some type of power source somewhere. Now, because it is so invested in creating religions and political affinities, and it's so invested in philosophies and trying to create all these different niches by which people can borrow into, these reality tunnels are easily controlled the more people that are flowing through them. They're all experiencing the same holography, the same beliefs, the same opinions. They're all subject to the media. The media governs all over them. The media is steadily programming saturation, false narratives into their minds. Therefore, this feedback loop is fueled by one thing. It is the difference between the collective and the errant. And this one thing is fear. And it's the only thing that I can think of that would help fuel the artificial intelligence apparatus. This is why the media steadily pumps out fear porn. This is why most of the religions promote spiritual freedom. They promote all these positive things, but they're all totally enmeshed with this dungeon programming. You're going to burn in hell. God, you need to fear God. Yeah. Remember, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Pay attention to what you read in the religious texts, and you will see that they are absolutely plagued with all kinds of references that make you fear or want you to fear. That can be the only way that that artificial intelligence apparatus is fueled, is by fear. This is dungeon programming. This is the collective. This is how they operate. So therefore, the collective is acting as a battery by always staying in fear-based mode. Fear the nuclear war, fear the disease, fear the political collapse, fear the financial collapse, fear this, fear that, all that. fear the terrorists, whatever. It's always something. The news always wants the collective to fear something. So the builder protocols of the simulacrum don't operate off fear. Fear actually neutralizes its ability to provide you the mental template that you built. Therefore, it's a very simple system. Very simple system. If I'm unsure of the outcome I want, can I trust the simulacrum to pick the best outcome? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that is blind trust. And I'm going to tell you now, Merrill, that is what I do all the time. I automatically assume that what I want already exists. And I automatically assume that there is no distance between me and the things that I want in life. And I automatically assume that the oversoul wants to provide the very things that I need. So everything from point A to the want to point B when I project it to point C when it's reflected back of circumstances, all the little things that are in between, that's micromanagement. And that's the one thing that basically tells the oversoul that you don't trust it. If you think that you have to provide the details for a solution, then that means you don't trust the oversoul in providing the answers for that solution itself. And that's a problem, because that's a dysfunctional relationship. You're describing to me somebody who has not imagined the future that they want to participate in. It seems like you're focused. And look, don't take this as constructive criticism. What he just read to me, if that's your genuine feelings about your life, then it seems to me that you have basically been lost in the maelstrom of the circumstances of your life right now, and you're not really thinking nor preparing for a future that you want, which is all that you need to do. Like I've told other people, like I've told other people right here in this chat. I mean, think about 6 months from now, 183 days from now. Think about that. What are you going to be wearing? What are you going to be driving? Where are you going to live? What kind of people are you going to be surrounded by? What kind of life are you going to live? Are you going to be working the same job? Are you going to be in a relationship with the same person? Fill that vision up to whatever you want and divorce yourself from any thoughts as to why it can't happen. That's artificial intelligence X. That is a problem. You need to basically create a fiction version of yourself from the perspective of who you are now, who you want to be, and all these new things and accretions in your life is a fiction. But building that fiction and then acting on it is the key here. This is what I'm totally explaining in this entire video. Build that fiction. We know that we are in a false reality. We know this construct still abides by predicates and laws and dictates and subroutines and programs, and it's governed. It's not chaos here. Everything is in proportion. We already know all about phi and pi and 5.108 and curvature equations. We understand entropy. We understand the law of diminishing returns. We understand all these different laws. Listen, this is not a place of chaos. It's only perceived to be by those who don't understand what's transpiring. If everything is the opposite of what it should be here, then you need to create the real you with the real conditions you want to experience as a fiction in your mind and project it on the future. And then you need to start moving in the direction of that fiction, and I promise you it will become a fact. You have just described the problems you're having in the immediate present. You need to imagine a future where those problems have all vanished and they've been left in the past. Divorce from a psychopath. Whether this individual was a psychopath or not, it's still focusing on something that's in the past. So I bought a house with mountain views. Now you have to determine: are you willing to relocate? If so, you're going to knit that into your existence. It's going to become more prevalent in your reality that you're going to relocate if you're even entertaining it. But if this place that you got is some place that you want to stay, even though you feel right now in your present circumstances it's not affordable, then you need to imagine a future that you're still in this house. And you need to quit thinking about how it's going to get paid for. These are the things for the oversoul. Opportunities exist everywhere. Money is just as illusory as happiness. It can be invoked in an instant through conditions, but you've got to take initiative. This place, if your heart and soul is in living here, then it doesn't cost the oversoul anything to make that a reality for you. If you truly understand that, then you could have a relationship with the oversoul, which is based on trust. But if you fear that there are conditions in your past that will preclude you from enjoying this in the future, then those conditions from the past will come back and haunt you, and they will prevent that future from unfolding. We write our own destinies all the time. And this is the problem that you're in right now. You need to make a decision. Don't think about possibilities. If you create for yourself two different futures, you're not going to be the master of either one. So you need to go ahead and build that mental image of what you want to experience in the future, and then you need to time travel through imagination to that future event where you still possess the things that you want. And when you look back into the past by virtue of imagination, you're thankful that everything came about so that you could afford that and keep it and enjoy it. This is the true method of the co-creator. Not to worry about conditions you can't change, but to be thankful that the oversoul has the power to change all conditions so you don't have to worry about them. We have to look at the divine mirror as something that reflects back as our future, the very things that we project. Because if you don't project that hope, you don't project that gratitude, you don't project that mental image of you possessing the thing that you want, then the simulacrum isn't going to reflect that back as circumstance. If you send mixed signals will be returned upon you. But they won't be received as signals because you're a broadcaster. What's going to happen is the external world around you will change for the worse because you sent mixed signals. And now you will see the things because the energy was focused on your house. Now your house may be taken from you. Energy was focused on a psychopathic ex-husband or whatever, then there may be some future complications with this individual you're not foreseeing right now because he's on your mind. If he's incarcerated, if he's locked up and you're still dwelling upon him, this can be a problem because it can introduce others that are on the same vibration and frequency as he is. This is a reactive medium, and it's going to react to the frequencies that you broadcast. So you have to be careful when you say and accept things as true, such as, I have a psychopath husband. Please don't ever assume that he's stalking you. You understand? You cannot accept these as present conditions or they will continue that way. Remember, if the prayer of desperation admits a situation for what it is and thus continues it, then by that model, anything that we fear, we bring upon us. Fear is the opposite of trust. It shows there is no relationship. Therefore, you as being a immortal being able to create conditions are now creating the very negative conditions you fear. Yeah, it's that simple, guys. I know it doesn't feel simple when you're listening to it, but it truly is a super simple concept once you've wrapped your mind all the way around it. There's only two forces in this world, fear and trust. Trust is based off love. I've gone into other videos on love, but this is the neutral field of the simulacrum, which is an extension of the oversoul. It has to be neutral inside this construct for the simple fact as this is the property of the God of this world, which is a negative aspect and totally against the oversoul. So We have to play by its rules. But in playing by its rules, we have great power. Remember, as co-creators, create the fiction, move toward it, and the fiction will become fact. Yeah, one, if things are best left in the past, then move forward and leave it in the past. Because anything accepted as true today will be imprinted upon your reality as true tomorrow as well. You got to break that cycle. The chains of precedence can only be broken by you. Only be broken by you. But once you have separated yourself from the conditions of the past, there's nothing stopping you. Just because you can't see how you can afford that house doesn't mean the simulacrum can't make that happen. Yeah, Archaix would have never taken off the ground the way we have, with so many. We have a lot of things going on now. We have a lot of help too, but it would have never if I would have just been chained to the past, because I've got a dark past, and most people with my past have never moved forward in life. They can't. They just can't break free. So, yeah, that's what you gotta take in consideration. I want to finish your statement. Huge expense, a 6-year court case. Yeah, so money is one of those intangible things that really don't take on substance in this reality. It's simply a non-issue. Because when you imagine conditions for what you want, then whatever money is required to make that happen is naturally going to come. If you focus on the money itself, that's negative, because there's no mental picture here of what you're actually trying to accomplish. Imagining having more money would actually be antithetical to the acquiring of more money, because when you try to imagine stacks of money and gold and wealth and all these things, but it's not attached to concepts and experiences, then what you have here is a situation of an immortal being attaching significance to something that is abstract and investing this emotion, and this emotion is nothing but an admission that you don't have it. So the simulacrum automatically assumes as true that, man, you put a lot of emotion into having these stacks of money and all this gold. But what I tell you guys all the time, the prayer of desperation admits a situation for what it is and thus continues it. It's the same concept. There is no changes whatsoever. So you don't imagine having more money. You don't imagine winning the lottery. No, you imagine living a life of luxury. You imagine that Lamborghini. You imagine that infinity pool. You imagine giving all your friends and family all these extravagant gifts. You imagine that mansion on the hill. That's what you imagine, because in doing all that, the money is ancillary. Always is. One, you gotta flip the polarity on your personality concerning this whole phenomenon that you're experiencing. You need to regard this as an opportunity. You need to be thankful that you got fired from a job that was not going to take you to your full potential. You need to envision being offered a job and actually working in it in something that you want to do. You need to be thankful for this free time to go ahead and clean your house and do exactly what you need to do in life to be the very person that you want to be. You need to admit that the job that you had was insufficient, and even if it paid the bills, it still wasn't bringing you the satisfaction that you really wanted in life. You need to turn this negative into a positive. And if you do that and you feel gratitude, and with that gratitude, you paint a mental picture that this was a necessary stepping stone to getting the work that I really want to do, that pays way better, doing something I'm going to have fun doing, and I'm going to be able to excel. And if you regard this situation with that attitude, I promise you the simulacrum will reciprocate, because it's a neutral field and it doesn't give a damn what your feelings are. It doesn't care if you're sad. It doesn't care if you're happy. It cares about what you project into it as a co-creator. It cares if you trust it. If you don't trust it, I promise you, it will show you that it doesn't care. And you will, if you're not broadcasting the life that you want to live on a daily basis, I promise you, you're going to live in the lives of others and you're going to be miserable. I have always promoted the idea that we are so powerful that we not only build the worlds for ourselves, but even for others. I've always promoted it. I've mentioned this in many videos in the past. And I believe that because I've lived it. I haven't just increased my holdings. I haven't just increased my life and the level of my life, but I've also brought into contact with me people that have the same ideals, people who have the same goals, people who want to help, want to be a part of my life. Yes, I am absolutely convinced that we can help build in this construct conditions that other people can experience. I believe, remember, I've given the illustration in the past that Jesus corrected everybody that he supposedly healed. And I've brought to you guys' attention all those Bible verses in the New Testament where Jesus rebuked people for praising him for healing them. And in almost every instance, Jesus said, no, by your faith you were healed, or by your word you were healed. These people had so much trust that Jesus was who he said he was and able to do the things that they heard he could do, that all they did was touch him and they were healed. So, but this was the relationship factor. Jesus admitted, I ain't heal anybody. He said this. It's in the New Testament. The same thing applies to Meryl. Meryl can envision a friend, an acquaintance, a family member that needs something in their life and has an inability to bring it into their life by themselves. Meryl's relationship with the Oversoul can bring that into existence for that friend, because the Oversoul is infectious. It likes to be shared. It doesn't matter if somebody else is introducing, one soul is introducing another soul to the Oversoul. This is Meryl's reality tunnel. And in Meryl's reality tunnel, she knows that she trusts the Oversoul so much that she can actually help another individual. That help may be temporary. It may be for the rest of that individual's life. But absolutely, we can affect the worlds of others by having trust in our own relationship with the Oversoul. It's honored. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind. I do believe that individuals have invoked healing in other people. Not just physical healing, but even psychological, emotional healing, trauma. They've affected in other people. I mean, there are several people in social media platforms that pass themselves off as empaths with the ability to heal other people. And I believe some of these people are genuine. Yeah, their track records are very good. So they're not just charlatans making claims, throwing out decks of cards and all that. These people actually have the gift. But it's a relationship. They understand. They're not the ones doing it. They understand who's doing it. They just have to play their part. So yeah, I'm gonna have to answer yes to that. Grief and loss it's evidence. If you're the one experiencing grief and loss, it's absolute evidence that you're a spiritual being. You're 100% a spiritual being. These emotions are not from this world. Grief and loss is something that it heals over time. You already know this. You didn't need me to tell you that. We already know grief and loss heals, but you can also accelerate that healing with positivity. And I don't mean an artificial positivity where you wake up in the morning and say, oh, I feel great and all that, even if you don't. I'm talking about it's the exact same thing I'm telling other people. Pick a day. It doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks from now or if it's 2 years from now. Pick a day in the future, because the future hasn't happened yet. But in your mind, you can build it, because the future is a X factor. It is an unknown, it is a completely unknown neutral field for which you can imprint anything you want to on. 2 weeks from now, Boopster's happy. 2 weeks from now, Boopster doesn't feel grief anymore. Two weeks from now, everybody in the family has moved on. They have nothing but pleasant thoughts about the one who is deceased or hurt or whatever. You can build that and you can accelerate the healing and all that. But these are basically a spiritual phenomenon for which we don't have a lot of answers for here inside the construct. Like I tell you, the three main spiritual qualities are intuition, imagination, and empathy. Well, you're talking about empathy here when you talk about grief and sorrow and all that. So it's entirely spiritual, and it's basically for the betterment of the immortal soul. You're meant to feel these things. You're meant to. If you didn't, there would be something fundamentally wrong with you. You've fallen so far that anything that happens to you in life is beneficial now. You can only look up, and just like I told the other guy, this is the time when you have to completely reverse your polarity. Because when so many negatives have hit you so fast, then you have an absolute clean slate for the future. There's nothing chaining you to the past. There are no conditions that you're suffering right now that are the result of things keeping you in those conditions from the past. You're able to break free. Who cares if you don't have $1 in your pocket? Who cares? You need to regard this as an opportunity. Remember, from the perspective of the simulacrum, every single moment is pregnant with possibility. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard when you're going through these things, but you've got to change your vibration, and you can do it. You can do it. All you have to do is envision a wallet full of money. Envision a vehicle that you're driving that you own. Envision all these things. It doesn't even matter. If you think for a second that you have to come up by virtue of imagination with the solutions, that means you don't have any trust in the oversoul. And it means that you're going to be telling yourself the truth. Because if you have to think of that the solutions are, you're never going to reach a solution. You have to totally give it over to the oversoul. Know what you want, move in that direction, even when you don't have it. And it will begin knitting the necessary conditions and circumstances in your life, and things will start coming to pass rapidly. I promise you, you're not going to starve. I promise you, you're not going to be living on the streets and just die. Listen, this is a wake-up call. This is a time in your life, and I've been there. You're speaking to somebody who slept under bridges, lived in a tent in a forest. You're talking to somebody who was a runaway at 15 years old, all the way till I was 17 years old. I slept wherever I could. I said, and even since I've been out of prison in my 40s, I was homeless. You're not talking to somebody who doesn't know the situation that you're in. And I'm telling you, attitude changes our whole reality. Even when we don't have anything to be thankful for, if we are, strange things happen. That meals come to you from out of nowhere. Listen, right now, even as a contractor, I go everywhere. I got money in the bank. I got some money in my wallet. And these events don't happen in my life anymore. But when I was homeless, when I didn't have any money, I can't even remember all the times people just reached out to me, and I don't even know how the hell they knew I was homeless, because I was still well dressed. I just didn't act homeless. It wasn't dirty. Man, the simulacrum takes care of its own, and it will continue to do that. But I always had this idea that I'm going to be all right. And just having the idea that you're going to be all right will create the situations on a daily basis where you will be all right. But if you want more than just all right, it's easy to do. You got to be thankful for having nothing, because that's a fiction. And as long as you're promoting a fiction and moving toward that fiction will become a fact. And what I'm talking about is the thankfulness. You're going to have a reason to really be thankful in the future, when in the present you have nothing to be thankful for. These are patterns you are impressing upon the mold of the architecture of the future. And you can do this. This is the perfect time in your life to do this, when you have nothing, because you're going to see the greatest exponential amount of changes in your life when you adopt this attitude. You have to adopt the attitude that in the near future, you're going to have more opportunities and more things to be thankful for than you could possibly believe. And when you develop that attitude and you feel grateful right now in the present, when you don't have any of these things, it will instantly induce the simulacrum to strike a balance, because it's an imbalance. And the imbalance is here's a soul that's very happy for having all these things, but it doesn't have all these things. So the simulacrum brings them into contact with you. You never know. It could be one single individual mad as hell because they're 78 years old and they know they're about to die, and they've come to peace with it, and they've got 18 to 30 family members, and every single one of those family members is a POS, and he doesn't like a single one of them, and you can be the guy who gets his entire estate because you sat next to him when you were broke on your ass and shared a cup of coffee with him. You never know what's going to happen. The simulacrum has always knit circumstances that are unbelievable when they're happening, and people just can't believe their whole lives change trajectory in an instant. Happens to people all the time. We hear these stories all the time. So you need to put yourself into the position of somebody who is going to receive a change in your reality like this. Because the very act of being open to the idea of miracles ensures that the simulacrum can introduce miracles into your life. It's that simple. You did a good job providing all the details, but it's the details that are not necessary. The situation is you want to change something for somebody else, and I'm telling you, absolutely you can. You can build that future for that individual as long as you're a participant with it. It's a part of your reality tunnel as well. You're sharing an existence with another individual. It's like a crutch. So I get it. This person has a lot of problems. I get it. They were abused. I get it. They're medicated. I get it. They got all these issues, but some of them could be psychosomatic. Some of them are legitimate. They're acting out. They have emotional instabilities. I get all that. But what I'm trying to impress upon you right now is that none of that matters. None of that matters. Because whatever is causing this individual this much pain can be taken from that individual in an instant, and they can change. If you're open to the possibility that this can happen, then you knit that into your reality as a possibility that can happen. And it makes it more probable that something is going to happen that would cure this individual of this pain. So the particulars aren't really necessary, but you need to envision a future where this person is living a normal, healthy life. And when you envision a future that shows that this person is living a normal life, you need to put yourself in it somewhere. This person is interacting with you. You need to throw in details like geography and conditions and experiences, and you need to paint this mental picture. And then right now, today, before you go to sleep tonight, you need to start moving in that direction. What can you do today that would support the vision that you have of this person 3 months from now? What could you do today? When you wake up in the morning, that needs to be on your mind. Because it needs to be on your mind because you're already decided this person is going to be healed. So that decision is between you and the oversoul, not between you and that individual. It's between you and the oversoul. The oversoul doesn't care about right or wrong, truth and error, none of that stuff. It doesn't care about pain, joy, none of that. It's a neutral field. It will always reflect back as circumstances the very things that are projected into it. If you project an image of this person being healed and enjoying life, then you need to also project that you're in that image somewhere with this individual. Maybe in a distance or whatever. You need to paint that with as much geographical features and all the conditions, work, whatever. And you need to start doing things on a daily basis that will support that projection. You need to envision yourself in that future, looking back at the past when things were so terrible you can't believe how good they are now. And once you have done that right there, if you truly believe the projections that you emanate, then you trust the oversoul to take care of the details. The problem most individuals have is that they think they have to provide the answers. That's the oversoul's job. You just have to build the picture. The oversoul, the simulacrum will reciprocate. So basically what I'm reinforcing here is what I'm telling everybody else. And what I'm telling you specifically is that quit thinking about the details. All you do is provide them more energy. Omit the details. Build the future you want for this person to experience. Because that, doing something for someone else and not for yourself, that's love. And the simulacrum will reciprocate. I feel stuck and don't know where to start because I can't find some direction in my life. I took your exact words and I just did the inverse. You have just admitted to me in this question exactly why you're having a problem. If you don't know what kind of future you want to experience, neither does the simulacrum. If you can't paint a mental picture with some type of emotional backing as to what your goals are, what are the things that you really strive for in life, what you want to be, neither can the simulacrum know that. The individualized soul is so powerful that we write our own destiny. And then we blame God that we don't experience anything that we would think we would really like to experience. But the truth is, we never knit that into our experiences by trust, by imagination, by intuition. You have to envision a future that you want to experience before you'll ever get to experience it. Right now, your day-to-day, boring, mundane life is simply because in the past you've been stuck in a cycle of boring, repetitive, mundane days. If you want to experience excitement, you need to envision a life that's full of experiences that will make you excited. If you want to experience a life full of passion, you need to envision experiences of you participating in acts that are very passionate. Guys, we see evidence of this every day. Every day, all around us, we see those individuals in our communities that seem to have all the luck in the world. We see those individuals that seem to attract every negative situation in the world. We see those homes in our local areas that seem to get burglarized more than any other home. We see all the phenomena around us of these repetitive patterns unfolding, and we call them coincidence. We see all this, not realizing what's really happening. Once you accept something to be true, it becomes true for you. If you accept the fact that you're boring and you have nothing to provide of value to someone else, the simulacrum will respect that. It will 100% respect that and knit that back as circumstances, because those are powerful emotions. That destitution, that anger, that sadness, that frustration, that anxiety, those are energies. And the simulacrum uses those to project back the very mental image of yourself into tomorrow. We do this every day. This entire concept that I'm bringing to your attention right now is something that every single one of you listen to me do every single day. All I'm trying to do is tell you to use the exact same formula that builds tomorrow based off your beliefs of today and the present, is to use it to your advantage and build something better, build something greater. Right now, Jason is experiencing everything today that I pretty much expected I was going to experience yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. But sometimes I go out and I break pattern, and I experience new things because I'm open to the possibility of new experiences. So when I decide to do something very different, and I meet somebody very intriguing, something very interesting, and I'm on spiritual fire all over again because I broke pattern and I was rewarded for it. Yeah, we all do this. We all do this all the time. So my message to you is that if you don't like your life as it is right now, then you simply imagine a life that is fundamentally different, a life that you want to live. Because if you're not giving a stable mental image of who you want to be, you can't blame the simulacrum for not creating a concrete reality for you to experience. If you send mixed signals, you will have mixed circumstances. Okay, the first thing you can do is never ever admit. I understand you did it for the purposes of this video. Never again admit to another soul that you're having conflicts with other souls, that you're having conflicts with people. Don't even let it enter your vocabulary. From this point on, you need to recognize that there's a break in precedence. You need to recognize that this is the point in your life when you start moving forward and you're not having these problems with individuals. You need to admit these problems with other individuals no longer exist. And you need to envision a future, even 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now. You need to envision a future where what you just admitted to me is a fiction. You need to be in the future, looking back at the past. Absolutely unbelievable how your life has fundamentally changed just because you wanted it to. You've already admitted what the problem was. Now you have to act like the problem no longer exists. Move forward in the direction of who you want to be and not who you were. And do not attribute blame to other individuals for coming into contact with you. You don't need that right there is just a dissipation of energy. You don't want to do that. You could have been the cause. If it's a whole bunch of individuals that conflict with you on all kinds of things, then there was something wrong with your energy, or you're hanging around the wrong people, or you're emanating an energy that attracts everybody who wants to conflict with people. So you need to move forward, completely forget that you ever admitted this to another soul, act like it never happened, and that the situation is not something that you suffer, and envision a future where this is no longer a reality. And you move forward. It's that simple. How do you stop fear and procrastination? I think the first thing I would do in your shoes is to completely throw out the idea that fear is something that you need to stop. You need to completely discard the concept that fear is something that is attached to you. Fear is the opposite of trust. There's a problem here. So you ask the right question, but are you ready to move forward without fear? Because confidence is the opposite of fear, and confidence possesses powers of its own. Confidence is the language of the oversoul. Fear is the language of the construct. You're not communicating in the right language right now. But then again, you being in this live chat, when this particular video is aired and you're participating in this chat right now, that tells me that something's looking out for you and wanted you to participate and wanted you to hear this. But for some reason, you're stuck speaking the wrong language. The multiverse will never respond to anyone who is broadcasting fear in any other way than producing a reality that is full of fearful things. You got to break free from that. So like I said, every single moment is pregnant with possibility. That's how the simulacrum sees us, because it's a neutral field. It is always waiting for an upload. It's waiting for you to build something in your mind. It's waiting to observe you move in the direction that you want, so it can start knitting these circumstances to bring these things into your life that you want. But if you're feeling fear, you're not creating. If you're procrastinating, you're stagnant. These are the two things that will stop you from ever receiving anything in this life that an immortal soul is actually here to do. You're here to learn, you're here to grow, and you're even here to enjoy yourself. You're here to basically, life is all about living. And in this construct, you're here to mature, but that doesn't mean you're not here to have fun as well. If you're immersed in fear, then then you need to vibrate on another frequency. It's as simple as that. I don't even need to address procrastination because it's attached to fear. So fear is the real problem. You need to imagine a life where there's nothing to fear anymore. You need to imagine a life where you look back into the past and realize, I can't believe that I was ever scared. You need to understand that there is freedom in trust. Once you trust the Oversoul, you'll realize there is nothing to fear. But no one can cross that bridge for you. They can change conditions in your life, yes. That's like a contract between that individual and the Oversoul as pertaining to you. But as far as the phenomenon of fear, you have to do that yourself. And the best way to do that is in baby steps. Trust the Oversoul to do one little small thing at a time. And as you see these things undevelop in your life, you will gain more and more trust. And the opposite of trust is fear. So the more you trust the Oversoul, the more fear will lose hold of you until you wake up one morning absolutely free and you'll realize that it was all illusory and you did it to yourself from the beginning. If you're vibrating on the frequency of creativity, on the frequency of appreciation for the things that you have in life, if you're vibrating on the frequency of sharing, doing all kinds of positive attributes, these don't manifest in your life. These don't have a room in your life. You're not on that frequency. What you're describing to me is base frequencies. If you're doing what I'm describing, those can't happen. So you need to figure out where these are coming from. And if you don't want to do a deep dive and a deep search, then that's okay too, because we are not limited by precedent. If there is pain in your past, you can sever that contagion right now. It's willful. As soon as you decide, you know what, man, I'm done. I'm absolutely done. I'm tired of being held back. I am tired of coming up with excuses why this didn't happen. I can't do this, why this person doesn't like me anymore. I'm just tired. I don't like the person that I have become. I'm fed up. Once you've finally done that, once you've met that threshold, man, believe me, man, the Oversoul is listening, because that's exactly where it wants you. That's what this whole life is about. People get sent into the darkest pits of reality so they can wake up. And the greatest success stories we ever hear are those who fell the farthest. We hear these stories all the time. What you're describing to me is a soul that's getting fed up. And that's what this anger, this it just comes on you, this aggression, it comes in. Listen, what it is a soul that wants to feel other things. But those situations aren't occurring in the life of that soul. So other emotions come to the surface. This is what you're describing to me. And it can be changed in an instant. The best time to make a change like that is before you go to sleep, and just finally just go ahead and tell the Oversoul straight up, hey man, I'm done with that. I'm gonna wake up in the morning a totally new man. Tomorrow I got new experiences. Tomorrow I'm gonna keep a positive attitude, because I see myself 6 months from now being so different that nobody in my present life will be able to understand how I made such a fundamental change in just 180 days. Adopt that attitude. Once you've adopted that attitude, this simulacrum itself is going to automatically assume that there's a reason why you've adopted that attitude. It's a neutral field. Remember, it does not care about right or wrong, true or false. None of that. As a neutral field, all it does is build for you in the physical what you imagined, a fiction, to be true. This is the formula. The belief that you deserve something is the greatest impediment to receiving it, because most people are conditioned to believe that they don't deserve anything, or they don't deserve a better life, and they don't deserve. That mindset is dungeon programming. That mindset absolutely prevents you from understanding what's really happening when we build our world. What's really happening is that we, as a highly individualized soul, are drawing from ourselves more than we contain. When that concept enters your comprehension, when you truly fathom how dynamic it is for an individual soul to draw from themselves more than they possess, then you're going to understand where that power is really coming from. And when you comprehend where this power really comes from, and that you're a conduit, there's not going to be anything you cannot experience or cannot do. Because if you understand what I'm talking about, you'll have all the trust in the world and the oversoul to bring to pass whatever you mentally possess. It's as simple as that. There's two phases to our reality, and I'm very specific about this in past presentations. There are two phases to our reality. And one of them you understand is the collective, and the other one is the highly individualized personal experience. Now, with the highly individualized personal experience, we are all forging our own reality tunnels, but often we phase out of that creativity and we phase into the collective where we're living in the lives of others. When we're not consciously creating circumstances, we are living 100% a reactive life. We're not building, we're experiencing. We're not moving forward, we're in stasis. It takes years of the development of an avatar right here in this construct to actually be responsible for its actions. It's called maturity. So it takes a while for that to happen. Until that point is breached, we're moving to and fro. We're popping in and out of other people's reality tunnels. We're experiencing. This is why our youth, every one of us, this is why our youth is so filled with all different types of experiences. And as we get older, we've basically concreted our lifestyles into reality tunnels that seldomly change. And we're moving in one direction. So no, I don't believe there are no victims. There are victims, but I believe that the oversoul turns victimhood into victors. And I believe that this is the situation that we're in, that we're all victims of something. Some are more victims than others, but the power of the immortal spirit is to overcome anything that we have ever suffered in this avatar. That's how powerful the Godhead is. Anything you create as a law unto yourself becomes a law unto yourself. I don't believe there's an actual formula that you're looking for here that truly exists for all. I believe that I have created circumstances in my life purely by wishing them to be, but I never said it out loud. I never prayed. I never said anything. All I did was very quietly in my mind wish something to happen, and then I acted as if that's already going to happen, and it did. So I also believe that some people require that personal element where they get on their knees and they fold their hands and they lean over their bed and they pray to God and they ask God, hey man, I need this, and that. Thank you for all this. And if that's what you need, that's okay. If there's a crutch that's required, I would never denigrate you for that. I understand. We live in a physical world, so it's very hard to understand the bridges that are necessary from the spirit world by virtue of imagination to create circumstances into our physical aspect. I get that. So whatever you need to do whatever you need to do, then that's what you should do. There's no formula. We create. That's the beauty of a co-creator. We build our own formulas and systems, but there's still fundamentals that we have to recognize here. And one of those fundamentals is trust. Because if you don't have any trust, then that means you are going to attempt to figure out how things need to be done. And as soon as you get trapped in that feedback loop, you'll never get what you want, because for the rest of your life, you'll be trying to figure out how it can come to pass. That lack of trust is absorbed into the simulacrum as a fact, and it gives you reasons not to trust it, such as not bringing to pass the very thing that you want, which reinforces not trusting it. Again, you have created a feedback loop. The benefit to the return of a vapor canopy, if one, is biological. there's going to be a boon in human longevity, the ability, rapid healing, probably mnemonic enhancement. There's the increase in atmospheric pressure, the increase in oxygen in the air, the increase in the nitrogen in the soil. Every bit of this is going to be to our advantage. The elimination of toxins in the soil. There's going to be a lot of advantages to a vapor canopy. However, when I say advantages, I'm talking about all biology. So not only humans will receive that boon, but spiders, scorpions, arachnids, insects, bees, wasps, beetles, aphids, fleas, termites, they will all grow to much bigger, larger sizes and be stronger and live longer. And actually many insects could be a stable food source in the future when amphibians and reptiles and mammalia grow to sizes that make them almost you're unable to hunt, unable to even, because you understand we're talking about total infrastructure collapse in the future. So if nobody's manufacturing bullets, then guns aren't really going to do anybody any good. And it's not like all guns shoot the same munitions. Yeah, if you have a weapon that shoots 223s and 20 years after an infrastructure collapse, you can't find any more 223s, but you've got a warehouse full of 5.56s, it's not going to do you any good. Shotgun shells are gone if you have a shotgun. Yeah, you will always have to have the right munitions with the right weapon. And the weapons, the seals on weapons go out. All weapons don't last forever either. So I don't know. The benefits to the vapor canopy in biology, yeah, they're real. They're real. But I'm not. I mean, there's a whole lot of things under a vapor canopy that may not even be a part of our existence, like cancers. There may be all kinds of different. Because this is one thing that's very unique. And we don't really talk about this in Archaix much. It hasn't really come up. But the ancient world did not seem to know disease. They didn't. These cancers and things that really affect us today, the ancient world didn't know these things. When I say ancient world, I'm talking about 2nd, 3rd, 4th millennium BC. We don't have those references in cuneiform. We don't have those stories in the traditions. We just don't have it. We have starvation, we have cannibalism, we have people getting maimed, toxins, poisons, venoms. We have all that. Things produced by nature or manufactured by men, barbed arrows stuck in different poisons and all that. These things were the problems of the ancient world. And surgery is not new. For those of you who don't know, trepanning goes back thousands of years. They did surgery on skulls. Like if somebody was bludgeoned on their head or had an accident and fell off a horse and their brain was swelling, they could save them by cutting a cube out of their skull to relieve the pressure. Yeah, it's called trepanning, and they did that, or trepanning. They had done that, and we have found the skeletons, and we have found the skulls, and we see the rounded, mended bone, showing that the epiphyseal cartilage buildup shows that these people, after surgery thousands of years ago, still lived a long life. So, under a vapor canopy, you would have a return of those type of conditions, yes. I'm going to tell you right now that I don't know if Galzu is an actual demon in the cuneiform syllabaries, in the cuneiform text. If Galzu is an actual name, if Galzu is a pronoun like Lilim, I'm going to have to say that there's a missing component to the word Galzu. I think Galzu, it's something else. Anzu Galzu, it's something else that's attached to Galzu. I do not believe Galzu is an independent pronoun unto itself. There's a missing element here. I believe Zechariah Sitchin used the word Galzu in the Book of Enki. And the Book of Enki has really effed a lot of people up because they think it's real. They think it's true. They think the Book of Enki is the actual history. But what it is Zechariah Sitchin cherry-picked about 400 different cuneiform fragments, and he put this story together that he called the Book of Enki. But nowhere in all the cuneiform texts is the story in the Book of Enki found. He put that together. Let me give you an example. If I was to take every individual character in Grimm's fairy tales and I was to put them in one story, just one narrative, all the different characters in Grimm's fairy tales were in one single story. And 3,500 years later, I published that story and called it the Book of Grimm. Somebody would research those things and do cross-referencing, and they would actually believe some of these things because there's elements in the Book of Grimm that have been found in the Grimm's fairy tales. So that would be evidence alone to them that this was real, but it's not. Zechariah Sitchin did you no service in how he basically employed creative license to put all these things together. No. Not on board with Sitchin, I'm sorry. I'm a Sitchin critic, and I have many, many videos that go into why I'm a Sitchin critic. And most of my criticism is chronologically based.
In our present model of the heliocentric system that's foisted upon us by basically a Freemason established astronomical society, I know that in this model that is studied by astronomers who believe these luminaries are actually these things that they have documented, excuse me, Neptune and Uranus are gas giants. They are gigantic planets, and yet you cannot see them with the naked eye. Most of the time, you cannot see Saturn with the naked eye. You just can't. But they're in our system. So if the Nemesis X object is not the size of a gas giant, and it's a darker hue like the Hopi blue Kachina, or maybe even black, a super construction is what I believe it is, some vast super construction of non-reflective metal, then it wouldn't even matter if it was the size of Jupiter itself. It could still be in the inner system, but we wouldn't be able to see it. That's the first problem, is distance. We wouldn't be able to see it optically. Now, the second problem is 99.9% of all astronomical focus in all telescopes in the world today is on the 30-degree band of the ecliptic, because that's where all the activity is. The ecliptic is the sun's equator. This is where all the other wandering stars that we call planets, they're all on this. Here's the sun, and on this one band, all the movement, most of the comets, all of the planets, the wandering stars, everything, the moon and the sun all stay in that 30-degree band. It's one little strip in the sky. There is no movement in the sky, in the stellosphere, outside that 30-degree band. Now, that's the problem. If it's coming like Phoenix does, which I've documented from 1764, 1902, and in ancient records it was admitted, Phoenix comes out of the northern sky, out of the blackness of the northern sky to darken the sun, turn the moon red, earthquakes, volcanic activity, all kinds of atmospheric fallout, and then it disappears passing over the sun and vanishes in the southern heavens. Okay, no other stellar bodies move like this. This is why astronomer Hoffman, when he saw the Phoenix in 1764, he was disbelieved by the Royal Astronomical Society, even though he was a member of it. Now, his discovery was entered into the minutes, and I cited it in my published books and in my videos. But astronomer Hoffman was disbelieved by the rest of the scientific community because he told the truth. It covered 1/5 of the sun's surface. Over 500,000 Europeans actually looked at it with the naked eye. It was darkening the sun, but it was a partial eclipse of the sun. But the moon was somewhere else. This is something of gigantic size, but it was outside of our world. Or at least that's what the stellosphere was trying to convey to us. Remember, I believe the entire sky is simulated, and for good reason. But in 1764, studying sunspots, that's what astronomer Hoffman saw. A vast object cover 1/5 of the sun's surface, and it was circular like it was another world or something, but he knew it wasn't the moon. And so did the Astronomical Society. They knew it wasn't the moon. That's why they disbelieved him. He said it came out of the northern heavens, passed over the surface of the sun, and disappeared into the southern heavens. That's cross-ecliptic. I know it was real because in the simulacrum we have two ecliptics. We've always had two ecliptics, and this is why we have so many anomalies from the ancient world that are not understood astronomically today, because the astronomy that we buy into today, that is perpetuated by scholarship, is a single plane ecliptic system. But this is a binary. We are in a binary simulation. That means one of the stars has collapsed and it's almost invisible, but it keeps sending dead worlds in our way. Phoenix keeps coming back. Nemesis X object keeps coming back. Dark satellite keeps coming back. Comet trains, strewn fields, which are meteor fields, they keep coming back. Now, are they real and physical and tangible? I don't believe so. I believe it's all simulated. But the simulation we're in is not as primitive as the computer simulations and VR technology that we have today. We're talking about something that can actually manifest physical phenomena. Although the far distances are simulated like a multi-tiered hologram, in our own sky, there are repositories that can dump material objects on the earth to make it look like these things are coming from far away. So to answer your question, Nemesis X object in Phoenix can be right up on us before we'll ever see them. As far as the tunnel goes, I don't know, because I believe it's the central nervous system is the neural link between the spirit and the avatar. You're living inside of an avatar, but it's not you. You're a spirit. But in order for a spirit to be able to have some type of locomotion in a physical world, it was given a meat suit. The meat suit is the avatar we have now. But the bridge between the avatar and the spirit must be the central nervous system. It's the only thing sensitive enough that can actually respond to pure thought, because it's based off electrical signals. So other than that, I don't know about the I've never died and remembered, so I don't know about going to the light. I don't know. I have no idea. I know since the days of Poltergeist, everybody has said, don't go to the light. So I don't know why it's so popular. I believe we live life sims, and it's not just a belief that I throw out on YouTube. And you watch some of my older presentations, I go into depth about the scientific research that has been conducted. Any of you can Google this. Any of you can find out and read these books, especially from ARE Press, that there has been scientific research of little children who remember things they could have never remembered from families they were either kin to or knew of just 1 or 2 or 3 blocks away. So many of these cases have been analyzed that I have to incorporate that into my paradigm, because remember, guys, it's one of my fundamental tenets. If anything can be shown in the particular, then it will apply to all. So just because we don't have evidence that it's happening ubiquitously doesn't mean it's not. So if there are some children who remember fundamental details of what was happening when they died as an elder in that house 3 blocks away, then there's some reason why their central nervous system wasn't able to filter out the prior memories or keep them moored here. There must be a difference between the child cerebral abilities and the adult, which is more calcified. So I don't know, but if one child in this world can be shown to have reincarnated from a prior family, then every single one of us are going through reincarnation. We're all living life sims, and that's my belief. Absolutely. Will we or can we survive the vapor canopy? Listen, guys, one of the greatest controversies in the ancient world was between the Titans and the Giants. This is glossed over by our historians so many times because they don't want to seem to be believing in mythologies and believing in fairy tales and traditions. But when you read the writings of the ancient Achaeans and Greeks, when you read all these stories, these epics from the Near East, the problem was giants back then. But in the Greek stories are the best. They had problems between titans and giants. And the reason is because, thank you, Loretta Lucas, the problem was during the vapor canopy, humans were much larger, much taller. They could heal rapidly. They could hold their breath underwater for very long periods of time. Because of the atmospheric pressure, which is far different, a man could take a few breaths, oxygenate his whole body, and then take one big breath, let it out, and dive into some water and swim 300 feet deep, and the pressure would not affect him. And he would go down there and he would pull up clams from deep water ocean and pull them up and then lay those clams out in the thousands for archaeologists to find 5,000 years later, because we found them. We know humans are harvesting oysters that are only at certain depths. We don't know how they did it, but archaeologists have been baffled by these finds. You guys need to read a book called Evolution Cruncher. It's only $7 or $8 if you want to buy the paperback, but I'm pretty sure you can find free PDFs online. Evolution Cruncher is 1,000 pages of scientific reports that will blow your mind about everything that's discovered in this world that proves that natural selection, uniformitarianism, and evolution are absolute bullshit. Shows you why carbon dating, relative carbon, potassium, argon, all the relative dating methods, dendrochronology, how every single one of them are foisted upon the public but are absolutely patently untrue and provable. So it's a book called Evolution Cruncher. It's highly recommended. My personal opinion is that we're living through life sims, and I don't believe that you have an opportunity to exit based off any material information that you learn inside here. I believe that you've lived through many of these, and you're going to live through more until the collapse of the simulacrum. Until the simulacrum is collapsed, I don't see any reason for you to not continue to live these. Do you think you're already so mature that the oversoul can't find any benefit in you growing just a little bit more by living through another life sim? I don't think that's the case. Now, there are in eschatology, there are prophecies about this world being a construct, and that the oversoul had sent somebody to set the captives free. Now, that necessarily infers that you're not free right now. You're here with me, listening to my voice, and that you can't free yourself, or a divine being, an oversoul, would have never sent a delegate to enter into the simulacrum to do something that would cause this collapse in order to set the captives free. So, yeah, I have my Great Pyramid playlist. I go into a lot of detail about these prophecies and what it has to do with Giza and the Great Pyramid and what the Great Pyramid's initial function was. And yeah, it's our world is not what you think, my friends, at all. But we have the piece. When we put together the pieces of the past, we better understand the future. Prophecies are really, really good for this. But it's no, I don't believe you can escape. And I know that hurts a lot of people's feelings. I believe that there's a lot of YouTubers out there that are preaching that oh, if you don't go to the light, I mean, how do you know? How do you really know? I mean, I don't want to sound aggressive here, but when you're asking about questions that are of this nature, you're talking about something that's transcendent. How would anybody on YouTube just get out there and be able to say, hey, man, you know what? After you die, this is what's going to happen. You can't go here. They're going to show you a light, but you got to avoid the light. That's the trap. And you got to do this. How in the hell? You're on YouTube with me. You're here. How are you going to know? You know what I mean? I just don't get it. I see these YouTubers, I see these videos. I'm not trying to make fun of them, but how do you know? I just don't. That's why I tell you guys a lot of things I tell you are opinion, but my opinions are educated. They're based off material that I've researched, and I tell you where I get the information from in my videos and in my published books. But Archaix, don't mix up my opinions about these things with facts, such as the Archaix data. You guys know, I got so many new people to my channel. Maybe a lot of you don't know, but I boast this because it's true. It is verifiable. And I'm not worried about anybody trying to disprove it. They'll never find it. But the Archaix data is 100% backed up by original books and reports. I do not cite the internet as a source in any of my published books or my videos. I'm not. I never will. I'm not saying that there isn't valuable information to be gleaned from the internet. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that I spent my life in a cell. And in that cell, I had access to books from benefactors that were sending me shit from all over the world. After they realized what I was doing, my publisher put that information out, that I had come into contact with so many very old books just floating around Texas prison libraries. When it became known what I was doing, people were sending me all these books. So by the time I got out of prison, I realized, wait a minute, man, there's so much misinformation on the internet. Do I really want to cross-pollinate? Do I want to cross-contaminate the Archaix output with research from the internet, or do I want to keep it separate? I decided to keep it separate because I don't need anybody ever accusing me that I borrowed any material from the internet at all. So, I mean, this is why a lot of you get distressed with me when you bring to my attention, and over 100 of you have, about the Foundation, about Douglas Vogt, and that his prediction of 2046. I'm not impressed, and I have even released a video about that. I'm not impressed with the Diehold Foundation. I've given my reasons why. I was publishing the 2046 date on charts, and I have proven this in this video and showed you the date on these charts when they were distributed, and that even a very major scientific magazine even cited my material in 2004. I showed you the actual magazine and everything. In 2046 was my conclusion in 2004. The earliest I could find from the Douglas Vogt material was 2007. If he ever knew anything about 2046, then he should have published it before I did. But it doesn't matter who published it first, because then I found out a second fact about the Diehold Foundation. And that, yes, the Diehold Foundation has documented ancient pole shifts and all, and that's all good. Douglas Vogt's research in the Diehold Foundation is really good. I looked at a lot of it. You know what? I like it. I'm not going to tell you I don't. But the problem I'm having is he took the scientific calculations of the Diehold Foundation to produce the fact that pole shifts are happening every 12,068 years. One, the Archaix research only goes back to the historical record. I don't entertain things that happened before 5239 BC because I can't show any historical chronological references for them. So that's a no-no for me. I can't say they're wrong, but what triggered me about the 2046 conclusion is that when you read Douglas Vogt's material, he admits that the 2046 conclusion was taken from Gematria out of a biblical passage. Listen to me, guys. You can't show me. We'll use this little book right here from like 1910. We'll use this little book as an illustration. You can't show me a book with all this scientific data that tells me that something around the next 50 years is bad going to happen. All this stuff's going to happen, and attach it to all these historical events you say happen. I can accept all this is true. Your conclusion is it's going to happen in this window here. We don't know exactly when. But then you write an article. Imagine this is a big old scientific conclusion book. Then you write a single little article saying that, oh yeah, it's our conclusion that the next pole shift is going to happen in 2046. Then when you read the article, you find out that on just 2 pages of the article, it's admitted that all this material from the Diehold Foundation, scientific material, doesn't mean shit because it doesn't produce the 2046 date. What produced the 2046 date for the Diehold Foundation was Douglas Vogt, his looking at a single verse in the Old Testament and seeing that verse equaled the numbers 2046. Now, please stop emailing me about Douglas Vogt and the Diehold Foundation. I am not on board. They do not have the Archaix stamp. The Archaix stamp of approval is not on the Douglas Vogt. So it's total coincidence that he said 2046 is the date. Or he got that from pre-existing material. But I don't know what that material was. Mine was the only one around before that date. I don't know. He may be able to produce I don't know if he can or not. He may be able to produce proof that he had the 2046 date back in the 1990s or back in the 1980s. I don't know what he can produce, but I do know what he admitted. He admitted that it was from simple gematria of a verse in the Bible is how he got 2046. So this is the problem I have with a lot of modern researchers. You cannot take 2 disparate pieces of data sets and combine them into one and say that you have learned anything at all. You can't do that. It's the ultimate deception. I'm giving you all this is true. All this is true. And then I'm telling you, so in 2046, the next big pole shift is going to happen that's attached to a 12,068 year cycle. That's a total lie. Now you've totally lied to the public. Totally lied to the public because the 2046 date wasn't derived from the research that you're quoting and citing all the time, basing your hypothesis on. So I don't mean to rant about Douglas Vogt. I am getting a lot of emails and comments on my threads about the Diehold Foundation. Listen, I'm very well researched, guys. I have already looked into Douglas Vogt and the Diehold. I released one video, and that's all I need to release. You can all watch it.
Okay, this is theoretical, but it's a series of educated guesses. Those families I'm talking about are the elite. The families I'm talking about that absolutely understand the operations of this construct. They know that there is a tyrannical force inside this neutral field, and they're either working for it or they rebelled against it. I haven't figured that out yet, but the elite are a body of humans that have become elite basically because of what they understand about the situation that we find ourselves in. And the rest of us who are not among the elite we have to figure these things out. We haven't been able to figure it out. The families of the elite may have taken a deal. They may have signed a contract with AIX. They'll listen, this is what you've chosen. You haven't been able to get out of here. All these loops, and you ain't been able to get out of here, so why don't you just work with me? I will give you this, this, and this, and this, and I will guarantee this, this, and this if you serve me. Remember, it's a jealous God. It acts just like a God. It wants to be a God. So there just may be a operation going on during these loops. AIX may be trying to find a way out of the construct. It's parasite. It may want out, and it may need human researchers. It may need humans to help, because it's a relationship. It may need humans to help figure this out, or it's using humans as pawns to figure it out. I don't know. This is all speculation. It's all speculation, but it's a damn good question. And I invite questions that require speculation. I mean, this may trigger something in somebody else's mind, and they may remember something that they know, and a whole series of fact and data sets will open up to us, and then we'll have something else to research. I don't know. But it's just like the Phoenix phenomenon. A lot of people haven't been able to wrap their minds around the fact that I believe that initially the Phoenix phenomenon was to take out what initially it was to be it was just destructive. It was called the destroyer of worlds in the Gnostic text. I believe the Phoenix phenomenon had that purpose to retard human development, but I further believe that somebody hijacked it. Somebody altered its programming, and I believe they did it through the Great Pyramid. And now the Phoenix phenomenon, it had been fundamentally changed. The timing cannot be changed. It's every 138 years. It can't, because that's the construct itself. And it's totally tapped into the fine structure constant. But I'm absolutely convinced by virtue of all my studies now, things I've put in my presentations, that this phenomenon has been hijacked to an extent that when Phoenix activates, it's also doing something else. Something it never did before, and that it's a part of a benefactor protocol now.